I recognize everything that, that I've said in the past and in my prior positions. I recognize that people are going to call me a hypocrite. And anytime I've said anything, I said it with the information I had at that moment. And I said it based on someone that's trying to compete for the PGA Tour and our players. And so I accept those criticisms. But circumstances do change, and I think that, in looking at the big picture and looking at it this way, that's what got us to this point.
It was contentious. There were many moments where certain players were calling for new leadership of the PGA Tour and even got a couple standing ovations. I think the most powerful moment was when a player quoted Commissioner Monahan from the 3M in Minnesota last year when he said, as long as I'm commissioner of the PGA Tour, no player that took LIV money will ever play the PGA Tour again. And, it just seems like a lot of backtracking. I think as we step away from this and see it unfold in the coming weeks, I think we'll get more clarity. But there was a lot of anger in that room from players, that feeling like they can't trust what the leadership of the PGA Tour says anymore.
Oh, we talked about this yesterday. I'm telling you, Doug Smith, I expected, look, if you said, hey, this is going to happen, give me like 10 surprising stories that would shock you. I wouldn't have predicted this one, the PGA Tour, DP, and LIV Tour all coming together under one big happy umbrella, family umbrella. I didn't see this happening. What was your take? I'm still shocked by it. Are you as shocked as I am, or did you have any hints that something like this was afoot?
Well, number one, appreciate y'all having me on here today. And this has been the craziest 2 days in golf, I think, in the history of the sport, honestly. And we go back to yesterday, the initial reaction just from the news, it seemed and felt like it happened under the cloak of darkness that, I'm out here on the West Coast, Mike. And so I woke up about, hearing the news at about 6:45 local time. It already kind of broke there on the East Coast. And shock as it relates to the news and how the day started. That's kind of what shocked me. But when we look at how fractured golf has been, something had to be done. And it's probably the only time that I've ever agreed with anything Donald Trump has said. But years ago, he called it. He said, hey, probably going to come together at some point. And that's kind of my take.
So, didn't expect to hear Donald Trump's name brought up today.
Yeah, go ahead, Vinny. Go ahead.
No. My first thought that I had, and someone that I was with last night in Miami brought this up. My thought is, if you're Tiger Woods, if you're Rory McIlroy, and you turn down money from the Saudis, how do you reconcile that now? Do you get some back? You know what I mean? Do you get something extra on the side for this deal? Because Phil is over there raking in the cash, and now Phil gets to come back home and get off and keep all his money. So how, if you're Tiger, if you're some of those bigger names that turned down LIV, how do you reconcile this now?
Well, I think when we look back at the initial decision, it was, are you going to go play on this alternate tour for just a big bag of money, right? And then a lot of guys chose to stay on the PGA Tour side of this dynamic or this dichotomy. So very valid question. I think that's something that we're going to see play out throughout the next and coming days, because look, Jay Monahan's announcement didn't give a lot of information as to the hows. How are we going to do this? Is LIV going to stay a thing? Are we going to incorporate team golf into the PGA Tour? How does this look? As of today, we don't know. But I will say this, if I'm, rumors circle for Jon Rahm around $400 million, $300 million for Hideki Matsuyama. And if they didn't take the bag and stay with the PGA Tour, there's going to be some pissed off individuals. And that's going to be something and a conversation that Jay Monahan and the policy board of the PGA Tour are going to have to answer to a lot of players, pretty much most of the players in the top 20.
Can Jay Monahan continue in his current position with these guys? Obviously, he can continue because he comes out of this, from a financial standpoint, he's still the man we hear from. All these formerly competing entities have now come together, and what voice are we hearing? Jay Monahan's. So it's been good for him financially, But the players, you saw these reports of players mad, calling him a hypocrite. Oh, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. Can he continue with credibility in this position?
Look, I think Jay Monahan. Well, let's go back. Let's talk a little bit about Jay, because golf was the first sport to come back through COVID. He took criticisms then and then got his flowers, right? So Jay kind of spearheaded making sure that these players had a place to play and that the sport was being seen during one of the most tremendous growth periods in our sport, in this game of golf. Golf boomed, and it boomed mostly around girls 8 to 12, black girls. That's who really kind of picked up the game as far as the kind of the disenfranchised group that came in during COVID. So let's applaud Jay Monahan for the foresight that he had to bring the sport back through one of the most tumultuous times in our nation. Fast forward to what we now know about this merger. I'll say this: Jay he's gonna be called every name that you can be called under the sun, Mike Vinny. I'm telling you, he's gonna be called everything. And you know what? He took the argument to the RBC Heritage yesterday, talked to the players there in the player meeting at 4:00 Eastern time. And from what I've heard, and we heard Johnson Wagner just talk about it, our colleague over at Golf Channel, he said that it was a tense space where people were calling for Jay Monahan's head. I will say this: if people just take a moment to take a step back and remove some of the politics from this, or the morality of this whole thing that golf has kind of stood on over the last 2 years, what you're going to see down the line is a better funded PGA Tour, higher payouts in the fields. And you know what? There's going to be better retirement for the guys that are going to play on the PGA Tour, ultimately going to the Champions Tour. So there will be some good to come, but it's not going to be tomorrow. And Jay Monahan, they're going to call for his head. But what I can say from what I've seen thus far is Jay Monahan's not acting for the good news tomorrow. He's acting for the good news, or the gospel, coming down the line for the PGA Tour in 5 to 10 years.
Will he be there for it, though? When the good news comes, he going to be around for it? Or is he going to be watching?
That's above my pay grade right there to call, Mike. But I will say, I do believe that there's a lot of information that we don't know. So it's really kind of hard to kind of speculate. I mean, we're just over 24 hours from this entire kind of news breaking, and it caught everybody by storm. Every single person, players, fans, the leagues themselves, even Greg Norman, surprised yesterday.
And that, it's funny. That was going to be my question, Doug. Was, are you surprised that the announcement of the deal came out, but no real details? That I almost felt like, because it came out so hastily and almost sloppily, you could maybe win the PR battle if you have every detail as far as how it's going to affect players, how it's going to affect the current tourney system, that you would have answered a lot of questions and soothed a lot of concerns. But we have nothing so far. So are you surprised that we have nothing other than the announcement of the merger?
I am a bit surprised because, everybody wants to know. I mean, we live in a me society. So how does this affect me? As a PGA Tour broadcaster, how does this affect me? The players are asking the same thing. The players that didn't take the money, they want to know, how does this affect them? Am I surprised by the lack of information? A little bit. But when you have something at this magnitude that happens so quickly, some of the other motivations are things that I'm kind of trying to figure out. How did we get this announcement so sudden and abrupt? Those are more of the questions that I have in this moment. I think as we pay attention to this story over the next 30 to 60, 90 days, I think we'll get those answers. But I feel, though, honestly, that this is a celebratory moment for the PGA Tour. I think everybody's going to be pissed off at Jay Monahan. He's going to take a lot of criticism. But when we pull back that lens and look at what this can do, I really believe that Jay Monahan has now put himself in a position to lead how this money is going to grow the game moving forward. So I don't see it being that big of an issue. But Mike, to your point, is he going to have a job? If it's up to the players right now, I say no. But I think cooler heads will prevail as the story continues to unfold.
He went in too hard, man. He went in too hard. Like it was just this time last year. Hey, listen, I have family members, and I don't have to apologize for being on the PGA Tour. Like, he made it about. He's the one who made it about morality. That's what. Like, if he had just kept his mouth shut, maybe the players would say, "What are you doing?" But they wouldn't be able. It's so easy just to pull that clip out, say, "This is what you said then. How's it different?" Now, man, hey, Doug, now his change is a little strange, man. His tie is askew, suit too big. You know, he got the sleeves coming down here on his shirt. I mean, he all frazzled, hair's messed up. Come on, man. You started this whole thing. Anyway, Doug, we appreciate the time, man. And look, you got to come back. You got to come back and just kick it.
I'm here.
You know,
I'm here.
It don't necessarily have to be a golf topic.
Hey, you got my number. You got my number. We don't have to talk through producers and PR folk. We can talk to each other directly. Just holler at me, man. I'm right here.
Okay, right here. None of this.
I'm right here. Whenever you need me, it's done.
All right. Appreciate you.
Always, man.
Doug Smith,
Always.
check him out.
Thanks, Doug.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.